Welcome, traveller, to the well of lost services. There's Anthem. Don't worry, Avengers. I'll be seeing you soon enough. It's very spooky here this year because it's Halloween, don't forget. Look, a ghost! Or maybe a bat will frighten you. Whoa! Whoa! Oh, looks a lot, dear. What the... What is that?
Well, there's a bit of green on the Swiffer. So I thought it might disappear with the green screen.
That's just a bra on a Swiffer. This is even by our standards, this is shit. This isn't even a costume, this is shit. Okay, screw this. We clearly didn't prepare again. So here we are. I heard an interesting question come up this week. The question was this: should Twitch streamers have to pay a license fee to stream video games? God, no! What a ridiculous fucking notion. So ridiculous a fucking notion, in fact, that I struggle to believe anyone seriously made it. The suggestion that a live streamer should pay to live stream a game because of some vague and inappropriate moralizing is so hilariously off-kilter and out of touch that I am convinced I've personally made the argument up as some kind of straw man. I know for a fact it isn't a straw man because I've seen the argument get very seriously and sincerely made, but for some reason, my brain still can't quite process that it isn't something I invented. But it's real, it's genuine, it's ludicrous, and it comes from Alex Hutchinson, a developer whose Twitter bio originally labelled him as Google Stadia's creative director, until it was revealed after his tweets went viral that he'd severely overstated his actual involvement with Google. Streamers worried about getting their content pulled because they used music they didn't pay for should be worried by the fact they're streaming games they didn't pay for as well, said Hutchinson. It's all gone as soon as publishers decide to enforce it. The Not a Stadia creative director was referencing a recent wave of DMCA takedowns on Twitch, where users found their videos removed without warning, in such a poorly communicated and obtuse manner that it threatened to make even YouTube look competent. It's hardly shocking that the music industry, an industry perhaps worse than even the games one, would once again be the root cause of video vandalism. Record labels these days seemingly exist only to tell people nobody's allowed near their fucking songs that they didn't write. I mean, let's not pretend most media industries aren't a fucking racket designed to con money and rights out of actual artists. While we're on our high fucking horses, the game industry, despite being fueled almost entirely by greed, has reached something of an understanding with streamers, YouTubers, I don't know why I said it in that elongated fashion, and other content creators. In fact, Even the greediest publishers in the game industry have realized that popularity on Twitch TV is not just free marketing, but itself a marketing tool. Twitch popularity is a metric for success in the game industry these days, and has notoriously boosted the popularity of such games as Fall Guys and, more directly, Among Us. But Twitch streaming isn't just enjoyed by the big blow-up successes. I was recently watching Laura Kate Dale stream Iconfell with the developer in chat, who was positively thrilled to see the game getting that kind of attention. There'll be developers that tell you that Twitch streaming really harms the small scale indie game, especially a story-driven one. Well, apparently that's more of an attitude thing. Not problem, thing. In any case, the Not a Stadia creative director seems a lot more interested in the big companies anyway. Won't somebody please think of the poor corporations and etc. I mean, if you're sticking up for record companies, you may have come down with a serious case of capitalism poisoning from which you won't return.
The real truth is the streamers should be paying the developers and publishers of the games they stream. They should be buying a license like any real business and paying for the content they use.
Nobody who follows the so-called AAA game industry as closely as we do here should be surprised that it contains attitudes of this hilariously skewed, snivelling, and self-interested nature. The overwhelming sense of entitlement in mainstream game production is off the charts. Publishers truly do believe they own every facet of a game past the point of sale, and have for many years carefully constructed a reality where they don't actually sell you games, they merely sell you the right to play them. A jumped up bit of weaseling that doesn't really hold up to any thorough scrutiny. Whether it's being so overzealous in the pointless fight against piracy that they drown a game in DRM that negatively impacts paying customers, or if it's contriving inconvenient code-based content lockouts because they believe they own used games, or if they're seizing ad revenue on YouTube videos regardless of context, often very clearly stepping over the bounds of fair use in the case of many critique and news videos, and sometimes stuff they don't even fucking own. So-called AAA publishers and their many grovelling mouthpieces are quick to claim they have sole dominion over a game. And that's just when it comes to the general public. The way publishers control developers, the art they produce, and even whether or not said developers get their names in the end credits, reeks of disgusting self-entitlement. And they say we're the ones with that problem. But like I pointed out, even they realise that letting streamers stream their games is good for business. In fact, the likes of Electronic Arts, Activision and Valve explicitly note in their terms of service that they allow for and happily encourage live video of their games being played, because why the fuck wouldn't you if you have a good game? Or if in the case of Square Enix you think you've got one. This is something most people at every level of the game industry tends to agree on. Even Nintendo, a company that tried to fucking codify the process of holding YouTube content hostage in an ethically questionable way, has pretty much given up the ghost on this debate and realised there's no point wasting its time fighting literal free advertising. And it is free advertising. There are moments when the advertising argument is spurious. Nostalgia Critic, for example, arguing his videos are free advertising when he mostly shits on films and literally bills himself as watching movies so you don't have to? No, that's not advertising. Now you could defend it on the basis of criticism, but not advertising. Among Us are literally exploding out of obscurity due to Twitch popularity. Mainstream games factoring Twitch buzz into its success metrics, these are undeniable facts. Hell, there are plenty of Twitch influencers just as there were YouTube influencers, and well, still are of course, who literally do take money to tell you about games. In some cases it's not even free advertising. Twitch streaming is simply advertising. And honestly, I'd rather that not be the only kind of Twitch streamer there is. So how about we drop all of the excluding, paywalling bullshit about making other streamers pay to stream games, while there are influencers right now being paid to do it. Because in a world where people are potentially priced out of covering games, all we will get from our content is corporately regurgitated bullshit, which in some of these people's cases might be exactly what they want when they tell streamers and other content creators to get real jobs or stop being so entitled. When your line of thinking is more outmoded and out of touch than even Nintendo, you're not in the best position. But Hutchinson, who is not Stadia's creative director, but apparently aspires to the position, isn't alone. His comment was retweeted thousands upon thousands of times, and while the majority of games Twitter was rightly dunking on him, his attitude was echoed by others, some of them also in game development. The vanishing of Ethan Carter's director, Adrian Chmielash, praised Hutchinson for having the balls to have an opinion these days, and I do agree that it takes an immense amount of courage to be so entirely fucking wrong on the internet. He added his own unconvincing take to the argument. You can't stream music for free, you can't stream movies, but somehow it's okay for games? Whoa! What really gets me about these arguments is how fucking old they are. They were addressed almost a decade ago when YouTube creators were having the exact same tussle over rights. I remember when YouTube videos and Let's Plays were gonna kill the game industry, just like I remember how used games were gonna kill the industry, and how VHS tapes were gonna kill the film industry, and MP3 players were gonna kill the music industry, and everything's still fucking alive. Whether or not it fucking deserves to be, because it's not a life or death problem, it's a control versus a little bit less of a control problem. God, I remember the YouTube one though. I remember getting into the arguments, most of them the exact same ones we're seeing now, and I could waste time talking about the transformative differences between live streaming an interactive video game and an immutable piece of work like a song. I could talk about the fundamental differences in how the game and music industry have handled online content distribution, and discuss the many problems with rights enforcements online, with copyright, with trademark in general, an old-fashioned set of rules muddling along in a digital age, but we've done all this in the early fucking 2010s. There's only one real argument left to be made. It's over. It's over, people. When EA is actively encouraging streaming, it's over. When indie devs are thrilled to get any and all attention on Twitch, it's over. It's far too late to put the genie back in the bottle and suggest streamers pay a license fee to show a game they bought with money, and that's if they bought it and they weren't officially given a copy to literally stream, because that's what most publishers and developers want these days. At least, on that note, even those praising Hutchinson's balls can agree that the issue is practically resolved. The debate is done. One point made across the board by Hutchinson and his agreeers is salient. This entire economy of game-based content creation indeed hinges on the good graces of the game industry that controls everything. Twitch streaming is big because it has the industry's blessing, as horrible as that is to admit, and the industry could make it all go away, maybe not overnight and not without a ton of protests. But if game publishers ever decide that this debate is no longer over, if they ever change their mind, they can make Twitch streaming far from lucrative, starving out any and all streamers except for their chosen influencers. It's precarious and scary for those with their livelihoods tied up into streaming. Just look at how effectively the music industry locked up rights to music it doesn't even own, consolidating around third-party content claimants that tirelessly scour YouTube night and day looking for infringements, no matter the context or even the legal right. Look at how WWE controls every scrap of its content, so people reviewing their shows, people covering it for news publications, can't show footage of what they're discussing. In fact, WWE is so strict and so threatening and ever present with its copyright enforcement, they can effectively chill discussion on whatever unpleasant facet of their business they like. At the very least, they get to construct their own truths, as you see on official WWE cuts of their live programming posted on YouTube, where they snip out uncomfortable moments or anything they don't want to be enshrined in history. The sheer level of dictatorial control WWE has over its content is downright scary. Especially when you see how far WWE's content control has extended to the point where it's now making its talent do Twitch streams and seizing the revenue from them. WWE, by the way, is a gigantic scam. It's a gigantic con. It's designed to sucker talent in, strip them of their identity, their career prospects, and their youth, turn them into cash cows, and then eject them while they have no lasting benefit of the brand they built because the brand is controlled by WWE. And I'm not saying we see similar situations in the game industry, but we sure as fuck do. And as someone who saw their critical videos of the game industry get roped in with Let's Plays during the whole last time we had this debate, as someone who was told by Nintendo that they should do a revenue split with them on the books while trying to do independent reviews of Nintendo's games, I don't want to become a wrestling news outlet fucking terrified to show anything. I don't want to be in a scenario where the only people streaming games are those who have been vetted and approved first, as we see in WWE coverage. Regardless of context, regardless of rights, regardless of who the true owner is, companies can wield a platform like YouTube as a cudgel. They can take down content without proof of ownership, sometimes without even having to prove who they are. In fact, a lot of content seizure is done by the aforementioned third parties with no clear chain of accountability or contact. And YouTube does nothing to stop it, sometimes because it's unwilling, sometimes because it's incapable, and the game industry could take advantage of that, yes. But it doesn't because for all its avarice, it's at least progressive enough to see the merit in streaming. And having gone on so long now, it'll take a lot of work to try and squeeze that toothpaste back in the tube. The chance of them bothering by now is highly unlikely. So yes, when I say the discussion is over, there is that disclaimer that it's only over because publishers have graciously allowed it to be over. It's been brought up that short story-driven games suffer as a result of Twitch. We mentioned that argument near the beginning of the video. This is largely, of course, conjecture, as it was with all of the other things I said that were going to kill industries at one point. There's no data for it, but I do agree it's not an argument to be dismissed as easily as the one about fucking paying a streamer's license fee. For a game like Ethan Carter, like Edith Finch, the issue becomes thornier. I mean, you can say Among Us is transformative when it's streamed. It literally doesn't work on Twitch without at least a level of personal performance infusing the content. Dear Esther, on the other hand, is a game about being a glorified camera operator, just walking around and listening to some words being said. No, I don't think Dear Esther's worth streaming to begin with. It was iterated upon and vastly improved by people with imaginations, but those iterations suffer similar issues on Twitch, I suppose, or certainly similar worries. We don't know for sure if people watch a game like Ethan Carter on Twitch and decide not to buy it, even if they like the look of it. I do know that it seems insulting to a game to suggest that it can provide the same experience on its own as it does with someone yelling "thanks for that sub" every half a minute. It's argued that streaming these shorter narrative games destroys them because they show everything the game has to offer, and I just don't think that claim is true. Not unless the game has very little to offer. You do not get the exact same experience watching someone else play it loudly talking over it most of the time. Unless it's something like Dear Esther, in which it's vastly improved by those conditions. No, I don't think watching Cucumber Succulents play Edith Finch is the same thing as playing it personally, and if you've ever watched that game streamed and think you might like it, I'd recommend it. It's a great game. The full title of it, which I forgot while writing this script, and so I just looked it up now, was called What Remains of Edith Finch. It's very good. Oh, it's been ages since I played it. I might stream it. The argument against streaming also mirrors the argument against piracy in that it assumes streaming viewers are lost sales. There's just no evidence for that. And while evidence to the contrary is anecdotal at best, it's certainly more plausible to me. Most people who want to play a game will not watch that game from beginning to end. We're in the age of spoiler culture. People don't want to be spoiled on things they intend to experience themselves. I say this as someone who has seen many viewers duck out when I start getting into spoiler territory for games. In fact, I've recently been live streaming very late post-game stuff for Hades, and people keep asking, how spoilery is this? And when they find out very they ain't wanting to watch. When I want a game, I buy it. When it's the fucking Saw video game that I want to experience because I like Saw, but I don't want to waste my time getting another Xbox 360 and hunting down an old copy of the game, yeah, I'm just gonna go watch a commentary-free Let's Play, thanks. Which, don't get me wrong, commentary-free videos are definitely their own debate. But as for the debate over watching a game versus buying it, well, I wasn't buying fucking Saw the video game this year. Or any year. I watched the Let's Play specifically because I wasn't gonna buy it. And that's how it's always worked with anyone I know, with any content they've watched or pirated throughout my entire life. And if a streamer I'm a fan of is streaming a game I wanna buy, I'm not gonna watch them all that long. Yes, even if it's Casey Explosion. Also, most of the really popular content creators have audiences made up of armies of tiny children. You show me the 10-year-old who says, I am going to watch my favourite streamer play Dear Esther because I was going to buy it but changed my mind, and I'll buy you a Coke. After interviewing, cross-interrogating and blood-testing the kid to make sure it ain't a fucking liar. If you're a middlingly popular creator with an almost exclusively adult audience like me, you could make a stronger case, though since I've gotten into streaming more, I can already say I've had plenty of people buy games because they saw me playing them. And even if we were somehow dissuading people from buying games, well, like I said, middlingly popular over here, and let's face it, on a decline. Exactly how many sales conceivably are being lost here? Ultimately though, the argument is inane in 2020. Sorry to current year, y'all. I know how some of you arbitrarily hate that because you decided that was political but Watch Dogs isn't, but it is 2020 in which we're seeing a debate that belongs sometime before 2015 rage on. It's an especial issue when people like Hutchinson apparently haven't seen any of the prior debate they've now decided to wade into.
Amazing to me that people are upset at someone saying that the creators of content should be allowed to make some of the money from other people using their content for profit.
Is it? Well then you probably should be in charge of Stadia because you're just clueless and willfully ignorant enough to be a perfect fit. And if you think that the companies benefiting from a clampdown on streaming rights will be the people who actually created the content to begin with? Get the fuck out of here because you do not belong in an adult debate. There was no end game for that. Thank God for me now. Thank God for me, everyone!
Oh God, we've gotten sad.
We're done. We're pathetic.